What's going on, team? Proof here, and today I'm coming at you with one of the 3 cards that we got in the stream last Tuesday, and I'm doing it in reverse order because I thought it would make more sense since Bushiroad revealed our VR in the set in the previous stream, which usually is the basis of what they're going to build the support around. So I thought it would make more sense to start here and then go to the other cards, because then it would probably, as I said, I can help tie it into what the other support has without having to be like, oh, there's other card that this kind of goes with, which would be me alluding to the VR, which we know about. So I'm going to go backwards from here, and then in the other cards, I'm going to probably make allusions to the VR here, which is Deadheat Bullspike. And as always, I'm going to read the skill and give my thoughts and opinions about it and kind of talk about the implications and some of the things that I feel that it can do in the grand scheme of things. Even though it's kind of limited right now because we don't know everything, I'm still gonna give my thoughts and opinions about it and see how things can tie in together. So what his skill says is auto on Vanguard. When your unit attacks, call Soul Blast 1 and move all your force markers to that unit circle, and then auto Vanguard once per turn. When the attack of your unit on a circle with a force marker does not hit, draw a card and choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. And there's so much going on here. So let's talk about the first skill. When your unit attacks, Soul Blast 1 and move all the force markers to that unit circle. So when your unit attacks, which is Vanguard or any applicable rear guards, and if there's ever a time we get back row attacking, this can also apply. For the low cost of Soul Blast 1, you can just shift all the force markers over there. Now when it comes to Force 1, that means all the power boosts go over to that unit circle. Unfortunately for Force 2, because how Bushiroad ruled it, Force 2, the base crit, does not continue to stack for subsequent markers. So even if you shift 3 Force 2 markers over to the circle, it's still only going to have crit 2 for that particular attack, unless you have like critical triggers that you check on the Vanguard swing. So this means that finally there's an element of passing going on in spikes. And I can't remember if I mentioned this in a previous video, but I have made allusions to it in my Discord, where I kind of wanted spikes to have more of a football theme, more of like a cheating theme to it, because that's kind of what they've put the lore surrounding spikes around. And being able to shift force markers around, in my opinion, is a way that they can incorporate both football and like some form of cheating into the clan that doesn't feel crazy overpowered. So I really enjoy that aspect of it from a design perspective. And being able to say you have 3 force markers, being able to Soul Blast 1 and give a unit plus 30k on a particular swing, all for a Soul Blast 1, is incredible. Granted, you need to ride multiple times unless we get some other way of getting force markers through other means, kind of like how Shadows and Genesis are able to generate more force markers. If we're able to get that as well, then being able to do that on first ride or second ride or any other ride for Bullspike here would be incredible. And that by itself is a lot to digest because of what it can mean for, say, like on hit effects, being able to make something that's plus 30k all of a sudden with an on hit ability, which makes your opponent want to guard a lot for it, or just being able to push through damage when your opponent's at 5 and they have maybe X amount of guard, but they don't have a perfect guard. You might be able to squeeze in over the top that way. And it's all for a Soul Blast. There could be some clash there because offensive punter uses a soul to be able to function, which, even though spikes don't really hurt for it, you need to keep that in mind when you're going through your game plan. And it kind of makes you want to think about your force placement as well. In my opinion, when it comes to Bullspike here, whenever you say you ride him first, you always want to put your first marker on the Vanguard swing, on the Vanguard column, because being able to shift it around is cheaper because you're going to go Vanguard first, but since the force marker is already there, you don't need to worry about the Soul Blast cost for that particular attack that turn. So then you can Soul Blast 1, shift it to rear guard A, and then Soul Blast again, shift it to rear guard B. So for 2 soul, you're able to spread around this force marker. Now, on your next turn, if you don't ride again, then you're going to need to be able to have the ability to Soul Blast 3 if you want to have it apply to all 3 of your attacks that turn. So that's something to keep in mind for your soul management. And all that is not including the fact that he has his second ability, which is the once per turn, if the attack on a force circle doesn't hit, you can draw a card and retire one of your opponent's units. So finally, I don't know what happened, but Bushiroad decided to give Spikes free advantage on the standard side of things. And this is a huge card swing for Spikes, because since they generate a lot of power very quickly, being able to make your opponent use a perfect guard or use 2 or more cards to have to block a particular attack, and then after that you can draw a card, add a card to your hand, and then retire an important rear guard of theirs, is such a huge tempo swing. And since Vanguard is a game designed around tempo, being able to have free tempo turn after turn after turn can start to add up, especially if you ride him first and try to recoup the benefits early. And since your opponent since you have like this Shadow Stitch ability, so Spikes are Shadow Stitch now. We kind of threw that in there on the low key side of things, like borrow mechanics from other clans, which I appreciate. So being able to have that on top of having the force marker being able to be spread around, if you combine it with force 2, it might coerce your opponent into wanting to guard that attack a little bit more than they excuse me, more than they otherwise would have wanted to. Or if you have the force 1 and you're coming in with a lot of power, then you might make your opponent consider taking all your attacks that turn as opposed to guarding it, which then makes your follow-up turn even more deadly, especially if you ride again and have two force markers being spread around to all your attacks. So it kind of just feeds in on itself, and it has impressive synergy in and of itself, but it also gives that impressive synergy to the rest of your turn as well. It's that rare Spike card that is standalone that also has implications for the rest of the team, because if you just put it on himself and then he can, if your opponent blocks the attack because they don't want to risk the critical triggers, then you force a perfect guard and then you can draw a card and retire a unit, all for attacking. So that's really incredible, and I think this is a very promising direction for this wave of Spikes, because as I mentioned before, if they're able to get other means of generating force markers, then being able to see him first would be really impressive. But he also has really good synergy with General Seyfried, because General Seyfried is still a really good mid-game Vanguard to have. But then where it kind of faltered was that after that first initial Seyfried turn, you were kind of looking for ways to either grind out the game or try to push for damage to get over that. And Bullspike here kind of does both of those things at the same time, because if you ride Seyfried and then ride in the Bullspike here, you have 2 force markers going around. So if you're spreading 20k per attack after Seyfried turbo soul charge, because you can pretty much burn your counterblast on General Seyfried's search ability. So you can counterblast 1, put a rear guard to soul, search out a card from your deck and search out the same copy of that card and pull it to a rear guard circle. Being able to do that maybe 2 times on your turn and use the 2 counterblasts that your opponent gave you, and then you put 2 more soul for Bullspike here. If you ride Bullspike in the next turn, then you have that synergy going with it to be able to spread the attacks around after General Seyfried either hit or force a lot of cards out of your opponent's hand with his own on-hit ability. So nice impressive synergy there with our ability to have 2 Vanguards that we don't mind seeing first, because Bullspike here can also lead into General Seyfried being a little more threatening on subsequent turns as well. So nice little 1-2 punch going on there at the moment. So on the standard side of things, I'm really looking forward to what Bullspike has to offer. On the premium side, it is like the same vein as General Seyfried, in that if you ride it first, you can get nice benefit from it. And then currently on the premium side, you don't really care about your soul as much once you start to stride, unless you're going into Violence Ace, which that's something you need to think about. But it still makes a pretty nice grade 3 turn if you go first, to be able to go on the Bullspike here, spread around the cost of the force marker, and then maybe if your opponent doesn't want to go to high damage, get the draw and get to retire something that's important to them. So all in all, I think Bullspike here is a really good card. I think he's very much VR worthy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the sport has to offer when it's tied together with Bullspike here. So that'll do it for me. That'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and until the next one, peace. Be easy.